So actually, we're live right now, Ilana. So perhaps I should introduce you and I should introduce your book. I'm so glad. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's conversation with Elana Freeland. I'm so happy to be here with her. I'm really privileged to be having this conversation with her. We're going to be talking about a variety of issues, but I wanted to show you her book, her first book, actually, which is, um, can you see it? Okay. Is it
There it is,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, good. Chemtrails, HARP, and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. Ilana is, I think, one of the foremost researchers in this field, because she's been researching this whole issue of aerosols for a very long time. She's been looking at military documents for a very long time. She's been researching weather modification and various aspects of ways in which our weather has been changing over time. And so she's really a font and a fount of knowledge, and I'm so glad that she's here and we can speak to her about various aspects of this subject, including geoengineering and the spraying of all sorts of things into our atmosphere, including heavy metals, nanoparticulates, and also neurotech, because the nanotech enters the world of neurotech and how that's affecting our brains, entering our brains. And finally, the whole notion of the space fence, which is the title of her next book. Is that right, Ilana?
I think the title the publisher and I agreed on was Under an Ionized Sky from Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown.
Ah, okay. All right. So I think may have had a working title and then you have this wonderful stretched out title. Brilliant. And your book is coming out in um,
January
20.
January 2018.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here. And I know there's one more aspect of this whole puzzle that you can, enlighten us about, and that's to do with the electromagnetic soup that we're living in as well, and what Wi-Fi is doing in this mix of nanotech, neurotech, HARP, the effects of HARP, and um, and 5G, which is threatened to be a full rollout very soon. But hopefully, humanity can get together and stop it, right? What do you think?
Well, the rollout is happening. They're saying that they're only doing it here and there, but it's really going up everywhere now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we probably should talk about that later after we build the picture of this ionized atmosphere.
Right, yes. And perhaps a way to enter that whole subject of the ionized atmosphere is just to start from where we are today with, the understanding that as you were saying just before we started talking, um, started recording really, more and more people seem to be waking up today to the fact that our weather is indeed being modified, that it's been modified for a long period of time, that there are scientists working hard on very large atmospheric projects that we, particularly here in America, haven't really heard about in the mainstream media for a very long time. And it's only through people researching silently and on the side and putting out information that we are beginning to wake up, right? Um,
Yes.
so if people are waking up, and we have right now, I mean, I forget when exactly it happened, but we're right in the middle of the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey in Texas. And there's a lot of interest currently. A lot of people are starting to ask the question, are these really weather wars? Is this really weather terrorism? Is this really weather modification? Could it possibly be? Can it be that the U.S. government has come to the point where they can actually steer the weather, where they can create hurricanes, and they can dump, what is it, 11 trillion gallons of water on any one area? Is that possible? So, what are your comments on that, and how does that relate to HARP in your estimation?
Well, this is it's very tragic for the Gulf of Mexico. One more time, uh, we had the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
We had the hurricane at New Orleans at the international port, and now we have this in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's just terrible. And yet, I am happy that people are seeing finally I feel like I've been waiting for this, that this is weather that has been weaponized. And I cover all the hurricanes, major hurricanes of the first part of this century in my Chemtrails Heart book. I go thoroughly into how I know it was arranged, each one of them, the hurricane at New Orleans, the hurricane in Haiti, the hurricane in Indonesia, the hurricane at the ports, New Jersey and New York ports, Sandy, the so-called super hurricane. So this has been the story of, to me, experimentation of NASA, NOAA, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy for 2 decades. When it all started, yes, HAARP was the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project in Gakona, Alaska, was very much a primary player because what they wanted, and they've wanted since World War II ended, was they wanted a piece of the action in the ionosphere. The ionosphere is popping with electrons, and they wanted some of that power down in our atmosphere for various military operations. And today they started out calling it C2, Command and Control. Today it's C4, Command, Control, Communications, and Cyber Warfare. So HAARP was juiced up beyond belief. It had a capability that on paper looked to be not that much more, but definitely more than other ionospheric heaters we had before HAARP, and that would put us at about 2000, 1998, right in there. But its power could be multiplied by certain things from Bernard Eastland's 1987 patent. If they followed along with what he was saying they should do, then they would have this tremendous power zapping the ionosphere, stimulating all the atoms there, popping electrons off, ionized, and then find a way to, by angling it over the horizon, bring it back to the Earth. And they claimed it was just research into the aurora borealis, and that it was also about submarine communications. But really, all along, it was the hope was that they could bring that energy back to the troposphere, our atmosphere that we breathe, and that then that would, through some sort of technique that Bernard Eastland indicated, namely nanoparticles, metal nanoparticles in the atmosphere, a constant flow of them, would then give them that conductivity they needed in order to keep the atmosphere ionized once the ionospheric heaters were able to draw those electrons down to our atmosphere and to just keep it going and going and going. And one of the ways they keep it going is weather. Weather is energy. And this use of weather, yes, it is very much a military dream to control the weather for warfare. It has been the nightmare of many a general when the weather shifts. But it isn't really about that. It's about energy. And now they have found a way to keep it going. And then they created the story of carbons, created the story of global warming, extreme weather, climate change, all of this being because of the human factor, which is not true. And so then they created all these arguments among all the people who saw the climate changes going on and would have this idea and that, and the people who said there was no climate change, this is really just a natural weather cycle due to the solar cycles. And, you know, all this Tower of Babel, endless discussion, always leaves out the military piece. And it
Yes.
is very frustrating for me
Yes.
to watch this happen. One conference after another,
Hmm.
one mainstream media article and interview after another.
Hmm.
It's as though it's like wanting to see everything in the room, but not the elephant.
Hmm. Yes, I read your article, your document, Planetary Lockdown, where you actually lay out, historically speaking, all of the many different ways in which the weather has been modified over time, starting, going back in time really to the 1940s and those first paperclip Nazi scientists coming over and entering and creating various organizations, right? I mean, I think the CIA was started in 1947, right around
Yeah.
that time. And then basically working, for instance, you talked about this one aerospace engineer who was not a protege, but an associate of Werner von Braun, who started to work, who was responsible for the creation of rockets, and then started to work here in the U.S. and worked with Martin Marietta before it merged with Lockheed and became Lockheed Martin. And and then very interesting history that you're laying out over there. And then after that, you also talked about something which I think is actually quite extraordinary, but is never spoken about: the fact that the U.S. has been detonating, nuclear bombs essentially up in the upper atmosphere, several nuclear explosions in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and how all of that has contributed to the creation of a ring of radiation around the Earth. And then that was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then after that, we have the geoengineering, right, of the 90s and the 2000s. And
That's right.
so, how did geoengineering enter the picture? Do you know? Did it come in with HARP or did it come in separately? Do you know what is the
Well,
rationalization given in these military documents?
the the term geoengineering is, in a way, just like the term chemtrails, which, by the way, is a U.S. Air Force Academy term, not a conspiracy theory term.
Right.
Um, the term geoengineering is not really quite adequate. I mean, it's earth engineering
Mm-hmm.
because it, 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 it can be defined much like the term terrorist in the Patriot Act after 2001. It can be defined by whoever seeks to define it. And Clifford Carnicom, the scientist Clifford Carnicom, is the one who shared in his film, his 2005 film, I think it's called Cloud Cover.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he talks about the 7 operations that the chemical trails serve.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, the term geoengineering could have an equal sign to chemtrails
Mm-hmm.
because it really is primarily about that. But there are many other things that geoengineering is uh, is seeking to do,
Mm-hmm.
and terraforming being one term that's bandied about, such as looking at what's happened to the Gulf of Mexico and the erosion of the coastal areas along there,
Mm-hmm.
forcing people who have lived on the coast, maybe for generations, to abandon it and move further inland. So this terraforming, I did think of it when Hurricane Katrina happened down in New Orleans. I really felt as I studied all the different accounts and studied, of course, how to make hurricanes military documents, but very old, by the way. I realized that what they were doing is this was an international port,
Mm-hmm.
and the global elites, they're the ones that I lay a lot of these things at their door. I feel that geoengineers and NASA, NOAA, everything is sort of serving the will of these very moneyed people. Um, they wanted to redo the port
Mm-hmm.
and make it more spectacular, is how I feel. And so there were some snafus that happened during that assault on the port at the mouth of the Mississippi in 2005 that that people probably don't know about. For one, the poor districts, the canals going into the poor districts, really did not get the full dose of this onslaught of the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And so munitions, detonations had to happen in those canals in order to get them out of the way. And that was, of course, covered in the mainstream media as being part of the follow-up of the hurricane, which is not really true. Very much like the World Trade Tower 7, which was had inside detonations going on as it fell after the other two towers.
Mm-hmm.
So this terraforming that goes on, I felt the same way with Hurricane Sandy later at the New York, New Jersey ports, that these are international ports as well. And it seemed to me that they wanted the poor out of the way, and so they could redo the port. The other thing you have to understand is that disaster capitalism is in full swing now. So this is Naomi Klein's contribution in her book, The Shock Doctrine, quite a few years ago. She's a Yale graduate. Very, very good book and a good concept, because now capitalism is really hobbling about because of the greed and power mongering that has gone on through it for 2 centuries now, I'd say. So this disaster capitalism, then you get the Halliburton corporations, you get the Raytheon corporations, you get all these coming in.
The cleanup operations.
Right, cleanup and
reconstruction.
And also manage all the people that are being moved out. So this is part of the geoengineering as well. It is a tool, a fantastic tool that I don't know if you noticed in the essay I sent you, but it is now being normalized.
Yes, from 2013, right? Yeah.
Yes, well, no, since just this January, they've begun to normalize it in the sense that they trotted out Bill Gates' boy, David Keith, again, and had him spew a bunch of things about how, gee, we're going to have to use aluminum oxide nanoparticles. And they've been doing this for 20 years, but it makes it sound like, oh, this is really unfortunate. We're going to have to do this now.
Right.
So some of the observers at Facebook, at my Facebook site, and in just various things I get an email, they seem to say that they are noticing and a great increase going on in the chemtrails that are being laid. And I live in the Pacific Northwest, where I'm sort of the last stop of the cauldron for the preparation of South Pacific moisture after they have moved it past California, because California is being used for a drought experiment now going on 7 years, I think. So they will move the moisture up, and Oregon will get some of it, and they'll do a few things there, and then they'll bring it up to my area for the last preparation to merge the moisture with the jet stream, the hump over Vancouver Island, before they take it east and south for weather events very similar to what happened off the coast of Texas. This is the western element that has to be there for whether you're talking about floods or tornadoes or hurricanes off coast or freezes back east in the winter. This moisture that is created off the South Pacific is pivotal in this. And I happen to live in an area where people here are really because we're so cloud oriented. People don't know the difference between one cloud and another. I mean,
right. If people haven't been watching clouds, they really don't know.
No, they don't, because they're accustomed to thinking, oh, clouds, that's particulates and moisture. I know what a cloud is. Well, not anymore, because as they're moving that weather up past the California coast, and bypassing California. They're doing that with lasers, with a system called Starfire lasers, and they're sort of bumping it along up the coast.
Hmm.
So you have this right away. You realize you have electromagnetics involved,
Yes.
and then also operant off the coast
Mm-hmm.
are Navy and merchant ships that are producing particulate moisture
Mm-hmm.
along with the moisture system. And again, we have the lasers directing the moisture past California and up and getting it on the jet stream. A lot's come out recently about the control over the jet stream. I mean, it has been
Mm-hmm.
sighted below the equator, which is unbelievable. So this is true weather engineering, and I'm kind of like this sometimes that somebody's going to make a big mistake,
Yeah, it
and
sounds so scary actually, because we're talking about very large systems, huge systems, right?
yes, yes, and of course, you know, NASA, NOAA, and um, the all the
The US Air
weather
Force,
organizations that
yeah.
tell us what the weather is that's coming. Well, they're
Mm,
telling us what's coming because they're going to produce it.
yeah.
And so it usually takes the public about 50 years to really catch up with
Mm-hmm.
what's happened. One example would be the Manhattan Project of World War II. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people didn't believe it was going on until much later. I mean,
Yeah.
60s.
And
So it wasn't 50 years, but it was close. It was
mm-hmm.
35 years before it became public. So now I was really interested when the mainstream media was saying geoengineering, we're going to have to do it, and here it comes. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, wow, interesting. After 2 decades, I guess I felt that possibly one of the influences was that the public is waking up, and they needed to really quickly, tie down all the little things and get things tidied up a bit for a public that could not be put off with chemtrail
Mm-hmm.
nuts and kooks and tinfoil hats.
Chemtrails are contrails. I mean, how long we heard that? For a very long time. And you'd have scientists telling you that, you know?
Well, and how confusing it was. So
Yes,
confused.
yes. Many
Yeah.
people were confused. And well, this is the story of mainstream media, right? It puts out a whole bunch of lies and denials and confuses even the
Yes.
most educated, who have some modicum of critical thinking and critical inquiry in their makeup, and yet we're not getting the news from mainstream media, from the big media.
Well, and it is a strange time because um, we've believed in our authority figures for millennia,
Exactly. Hmm.
and now we have all this information through the internet, and we have so much activity of
Hmm.
observation and discussion and disinformation and misinformation and real information, and discernment is being challenged right and left to
Hmm.
figure out what's what and who's who. But meanwhile, deep down, people are really still waiting for the authority figure to come
I
forward.
think you're right. Unfortunately.
It is because a lot of people, see me as some sort of, the authority. And the truth is, this is a journey for me too. I mean, I
Hmm.
am learning as fast as I can go, and people say, well, you don't have a PhD in plasma physics or astrophysics, so what do you know? Well, the truth is, I don't know of a course in the country that you could take that would at all touch any of this national security science.
Hmm. And
I,
it,
I don't I don't think there is anywhere. But there are quiet programs where certain scientists are being handpicked
hmm.
and they're having access to
Hmm.
Tesla physics, a lot of which was buried after Tesla was killed. And you know, they have access because they are in the in club.
Hmm.
But we're out here just scrounging around in the
Yes.
garbage and the rubble,
Yeah.
and slowly putting things together
Hmm.
in a
Yes, and
way
I
that
should also point out, Alana, what you are is you are a writer. You are a writer and a researcher. Something I forgot
yes,
to mention when introducing you is that you have an undergraduate degree in creative writing and in biology. So you have both a science background and a writing background. And writers do poke around, you know, we do poke around in information and in documents that are hidden from public view.
Well,
So,
and in grad school, I got a master's in historiography, which is the writing of histories, and I did a thesis on a guy that was I knew nothing about, but he was perfect for what I was already into because I researched many conspiracies topics for years in order
hmm,
to figure out how this was working,
mm-hmm,
how this underbelly, this what I call sub rosa in some other works I've written, how this operated. And
mm-hmm,
it was by studying this guy named Collingwood, a British historian who died at 48 in a strange, I might add, strange death.
oh wow,
He gave me the tools to see how I could do history, I could do research, which is really what history is, it's research.
mm-hmm.
I could do the research even where things had been taken out and lied about. I didn't have to have just documentation. I also had to look at patterns of what had been taken out or changed. And he just opened the doors for me. And I immediately understood how he was doing that. And that's the technique I use.
That's
That's how,
fascinating. His name is Collingwood?
yeah,
Yeah,
Collingwood. Yeah, I think it's G.K. Collingwood.
G.K. Collingwood.
And my thesis won honors only the third time in the history of St. John's College. They
Oh,
were very kind to
congrats.
me. But then I'm a writer. I'm a writer, so
Mm-hmm.
well, you know. But I
Yes.
did understand him, and as the my
Well, that's
committee said,
wonderful. Go ahead. But
yeah. Well, just that they said that they had never understood what Collingwood was saying until I told them.
until you kind of put it into practice, that's brilliant. Yeah,
Yes, it was.
because in a sense, what you have done is you're pulling together the craft of writing and the craft of research and the craft of historiography that you have learned and studied. You know,
Well,
that was
and
your master's.
science, and my love of science. I do love science, but
Mm-hmm.
I have distrusted science for good reason. There are many scientists in this movement who also have wiped the dust from their feet and moved on. Who like electric universe scientists? They're my favorite, and
Mm-hmm.
that would include the Thunderbolts project, which I
Ah,
highly recommend to
interesting.
everyone. If you want to know what real science is,
Mm-hmm.
study the electric universe and the Thunderbolts project because they are seeing how this electromagnetic soup we're living in now,
Mm-hmm.
how not all of them are seeing it, some of them are seeing it,
Mm-hmm.
of how this fits into an electric universe, that it is everywhere. But here on Earth, there are agendas that are utilizing this principle, and it's not really taught in. Most Americans don't have science beyond high school, and it
Mm-hmm.
certainly isn't being taught in high school.
Yes, and I think you've touched upon actually so many different aspects, and I'm thinking about all the different directions we could possibly go from this point. But one of the things I just wanted to mention was the fact that you've talked about scientists, you know. So something that people haven't really woken up to as yet is that part of the reason that we are sitting in a vacuum of information from mainstream media is also because we are getting wrongful information from scientists who are associated with big organizations, you know, like NASA and like NOAA, what is it, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, um, and as well as from the weather companies, which are now all owned by people like Raytheon and Lockheed and the Rothschilds, right? And these are the
Yes,
weather
yes.
forecasting companies. So the complicity and the intermixing of capitalism, of just money making and profiting off of information, along with science, is just so intense that now we're in this situation where we are getting all this false information, as you say, regarding the whole climate change scenario, the whole carbon dioxide being the culprit, not scenario. So,
When it is necessary to life. I mean, it's just amazing, and they must be laughing in their boardrooms at the gullibility of Americans and
mhm,
others. But to be fair to the scientists, yes, there are those who've sold out, absolutely.
mhm,
And then there are those who've possibly been threatened.
mhm.
their families may be threatened.
Yeah.
Certainly, we've lost a lot of scientists who attempted to come forward and
Yes.
were murdered in the most horrendous and strange ways.
Yes.
And then the
Scientists
other thing
in different fields, right? Scientists in different fields.
yes, yes. I mean, we went through a whole spate in the 90s and early 2000s of microbiologists.
Yeah.
There must have been over a dozen of them, all killed. Boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, 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 boom. And then the other thing I would add for the scientists and politicians who also are
Yes.
playing ball with
Mm-hmm.
the big boys
Mm-hmm.
is the possibility that they have been drugged and filmed with children in pedophilia acts.
Yeah.
And that's why the pedophilia thing going on right now, where many pedophiles are being arrested here and there. I mean,
It's
we've been
coming
through this
out. Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to touch many of the people I would like it to touch,
Mm-hmm.
but this idea of blackmailing
Mm-hmm.
people to
Yeah.
play ball
Right.
also.
Right.
So I think scientists are now caught between a rock and a hard place. And many of them just want to do science, and the only grant money available now is pretty much
Is through
military
the
or
DoD.
defense
Yeah.
contractor corporations. Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, that's a very good point because there's this whole connection now between universities and research institutions and the DoD, right?
Yes.
So, because they're
Yes.
all being bolstered and held up by the Department of Defense. And so, even in the big universities where, as you say, there may be pure scientists who are very keen on pursuing pure science, the money for research is only in these research projects, which may be public domain and or which may be black ops, which may be classified. So,
Yes. Most of it is classified, I'm sure. And then you have the compartmentalization and the need to know basis for all the scientists. So a scientist might be working in good faith, might be a Christian, he might be a Muslim, he might be someone who, feels he's doing some sort of God's work. And it's because he doesn't know the whole picture that he's being exploited and used. And it must be a horror when these people of conscience wake up to what they have done. And I don't know what they do, because once you're in, you're in.
yeah,
And there's usually only one way out, and that's through death.
yeah.
So it's a terrible situation for knowledge, and I certainly don't think of major universities anymore as pinnacles of knowledge where you can sit at the feet of great wise men and women and learn. No, they have been bought off, and so yeah. Here's our dilemma. We're sort of caught in, and I will hold the military quite culpable for this. Back in the 90s, there was a thing called the Revolution in Military Affairs, the RMA,
Yes.
and this was a complete change in how warfare is conducted.
Right.
We're not having symmetrical warfare anymore. That would be, I think, of all sending masses of soldiers to fight on fields in places like in France during World War II. No, that's not happening anymore. We have asymmetric warfare, and we have small teams of killers, basically, that are now actually programmed and have various implements in their brain and in their bodies to give them super soldier powers. These teams are sent in to various places completely secretly. There is no declaration of war. Everything around us in culture has been weaponized because in asymmetric warfare, anything can be used
And
for warfare.
in fact, I was talking to Dr. Eric Hallstrom last night about this. This is just a new conversation we just put up online this morning. And we were talking about precisely this because Mark Rich, in his book New World War, talks about the different stages, the different kinds of RMAs that the military recognizes. I mean, this is the terminology, the RMA in itself. And they seem to think that right now, with computers, with electronics, and with electronic weapons, which is electromagnetic weapons, and also with urban warfare tactics and guerrilla warfare tactics, as you are describing, we've come to a new point in warfare strategies, and that constitutes the current RMA, the current revolution in military affairs. So it's all about civilian military operations, unconventional warfare, stealth warfare, asymmetric warfare, as you described, and also, urban warfare. This warfare is being brought into the domestic space. America has become the battlefield now, just as every other country has become the battlefield, right?
Well, and that's the important part, is especially if we're going to look at electromagnetics and living in a wireless world, is that everything is a battle space now.
Yeah.
Everywhere is a
Yeah.
battle space, and there is no clear line ever since 9/11 between civilian and combatant.
Mm-hmm.
We are all potential combatants, and that is how the military views us. That is how our intelligence agencies view us. So that's why the surveillance. Surveillance is simply data needed for warfare. It's no more, no less. But when you're talking to civilians, you need to dress it up a little bit and make it look like, oh, well, sometimes we do that. And of course, we always have to sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of war mentality
Mm-hmm.
has now completely taken over,
Mm-hmm.
certainly in the United States.
Yeah.
We have no constitution that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you can still say what you want if you're not saying much,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're distracting people into maybe something spiritual or religious, and so that they're not really looking at the primary thing that is being done to prepare for absolute planetary lockdown. And that's
Right.
why I used that term,
Right.
lockdown. I am serious because let's go a little deeper into the chemical trails,
Yes.
because this
Mm-hmm.
is the key. Whether one believes, as in our movement, in the so-called chemtrails movement or the anti-geoengineering movement,
Mm-hmm.
we have many arguments, and some people say, oh, well, it's this, and oh, well, it's that. And so, yeah, I don't mind all the arguing. But whether you believe that all the chemicals we're breathing are simply from jet fuel, commercial and military,
Mm-hmm.
or you believe there are supplementary systems on various jets, commercial and military, that are spewing certain chemicals that someone somewhere has decided a certain geographic area needs
Mm-hmm.
for the experiments they're running, because they see all of life now as an open field experiment. That's absolute, absolute.
Yeah.
And that is not just with chemtrails. That's happened since Vietnam, since Operation Popeye of Agent Orange, since the Tuskegee, where black men were sterilized. I mean,
Yeah.
this is how civilians are used in this culture that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So the chemtrails are definitely, they're up in the stratosphere, about 35, at least 35,000 feet,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 29,000, sometimes lower.
Mm-hmm.
And they are spewing definite chemicals from jet fuel, the JP8
Yes,
fuel. Uh,
that's the height at which jets, just normal commercial jets fly, transatlantic jets. They fly at that
yeah,
height, that
yeah.
altitude. So it's easy for
And
them. And now they've got them using their own, well, I don't know if it's engine exhaust. I don't know how exactly it's set up now, but they're using those jets to put out the chemtrails, right? The aerosols.
yes, in the combustion chamber, there's a chemical transformation that happens called pyrolysis. And I go into detail in that in the upcoming book,
Okay.
because, well, partially because I understand it far better now than I did when I wrote Chemtrails Harp,
Mm-hmm.
and also because I was able to attract various scientifically minded people who had gone more deeply into it than I had.
Mm-hmm.
So through pyrolysis, the chemicals in the jet fuel are completely transmogrified into something different. So So it's very, it might be enough to just think about what we're breathing there.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of a supplementary system as well, particularly for various geographic areas. This is completely my idea. I don't know if anyone else has this idea. But ever since I was in touch with an activist in Oregon who now is heavily targeted with electromagnetic weapons whenever she has contact with me.
Oh,
So we
dear.
have no contact anymore. But she was able to see, observe. She's a PhD, but in another field, not in this field.
Mm-hmm.
But she had great observation skills, and she was able to observe that what was being sprayed along the Oregon coast was making people sick, making them very sick. And the reason I got interested, that was the first step. The reason I got interested in it is because Oregon has been used before for experiments. When the Russians were experimenting with electromagnetic, with what's called
The
woodpecker,
woodpecker, yeah.
back in the 70s, they hit Eugene, Oregon, heavily for a long time, and the suicide rate multiplied.
Oh my.
So there's something about Oregon. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's geomagnetic or if it's, some people think of Oregon as a third world country. It's
a
very
beautiful
different
place,
from the
right?
other states. But when this woman noticed that people were getting ill and was in touch with people and collecting names and anecdotal material, then bingo, here came a whistleblower who worked for the Weather Service, the State Weather Service of Oregon. He contacted her and two other activists that he had found on Facebook. And he explained exactly what was happening, that it was being sprayed with lithium.
Oh,
and now lithium is an interesting metal. It's highly conductive, but it's expensive. So primarily what we're breathing from the chemical trails is aluminum oxide. Aluminum is very conductive. It has a great surface area, so it's great for cloud seeding when you want to attract moisture. You can hit it with radio frequency or microwaves, and it will become very, very active, and you can move it in different directions with laser and etc. So usually it's aluminum oxide we're dealing with some titanium, with some strontium,
barium,
etc. But the lithium idea was interesting because I know from Billy Hayes, the HARP man, a very good friend and advisor of mine through writing the Space Fence book. He was invaluable to me in explaining how the technology worked. He was saying that out of Wallops, which is a place where there are many rockets that are launched on the East Coast in Virginia, that they often had mainly lithium going up. And so they're spewing aluminum, but they're spewing lithium as well. And this is where we come back to your bringing up when the Van Allen belts were being detonated above the Earth as the attempt to make a hole so that we could leave the Earth and human beings would not die. This was what was
it was connected with that then, with sort of space exploration ideas, sending rockets through the Van Allen belt.
But they were unable to do it at that point. And now I'm in a little doubt that they may have been able to finally correct that, but they definitely created even more of another or one or two Van Allen belts. Okay, so back to your idea there of the ring around the planet. Okay, this ring around the planet is definitely something I take up in earnest as the near-Earth orbit portion of the space fence that is constructed now. And so what happens is the rocket goes up, it's loaded in its trail, there's lithium, there's aluminum oxide, maybe some other metals, and then it gets up in the stratosphere and above this, up to the very top rungs, and then maybe it comes down. These are sounding rockets. They have all sorts of sensors and instruments on them that are measuring this and that. And meanwhile, all the spewing kind of goes out into and then begins to settle. And what happens from the centrifugal force of the Earth as it's spinning is it
keeps it
gradually
in orbit.
spins down
Yeah.
to the equator.
Oh,
And this is
okay.
where a ring is being made around the Earth at the equator, very similar to Saturn's rings. Very similar. In fact,
Does that mean it would be
one would
visible?
wonder-
Yeah.
one would wonder about Saturn's history.
Ah, yeah.
And so this whole idea of the lithium, this is another part of it. Now, what was going on in Oregon was not this, but it does make me wonder about the rockets going up from Edwards Air Force Base in California and Wallops in Virginia, and the spewing of these metals makes me wonder if it's lithium. Are they interested in the effect on populations, given that lithium is normally given to bipolar people?
Oh my goodness.
They are very interested in the effects on human consciousness.
Okay, so that's actually a huge subject in itself, the effects on human consciousness, because as you know, with HARP and tomography, earth-penetrating tomography, and the ELFs that are generated, and
but that's not the worst of it. No,
what is the worst of it?
I'm just loaded with good news.
Yes, you are.
So the worst of it is we're breathing in these metals, right?
Yeah.
All right. Coming down with these metals are other things. And we're breathing those in as well because they're all on a nanoscale.
Yeah.
And if your listeners have not really studied nanotechnology, please do so, because nanotechnology may be the very first cause of our potential doom, beyond even AI, because the nanoparticles, it's hard to believe, but a submicron sized nanoparticle can hold sensors. It can be have been genetically engineered. It can have biologicals in it. It can have tiny computers in it, microprocessors.
Yeah.
And loaded in this way, then we're breathing them in. They go into our lungs. They go into our bloodstream. They easily go beyond the blood-brain barrier. And they're lodging in our brains. And what is most amazing, let's just take Morgellons for a moment. Morgellons is something I'll be writing more about in the next book I'm writing on synthetic biology.
Oh, excellent.
But in Morgellons, it appears to have been genetically engineered so that it is not recognized by our immune system when it enters our body. Neither are any of these other things recognized by our immune system. So the immune system is just used to what we've had for millions or thousands of years as virus, bacteria, just from nature.
Dust particles, etc.
Not only are we breathing in what's been genetically engineered for us to breathe in, but we are breathing in what's coming down from the stratosphere that we've never dealt with. That would be fungus. Fungus would be my number one candidate. And of course, fungus and Morgellons kind of look like each other. Lyme disease looks a little like Morgellons. Chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all of these autoimmune diseases that are brand new, all may have to do with what we're breathing in and what our blood system is carrying, and what our immune system is probably struggling to recognize because it can tell that we're not well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's, to me, when I talk to people, and somebody will say, maybe you'll say it to me in a minute, Ilana, do you have any good news? Is there, what can we do about this? My first thing to say to people is build your immune system. Whatever lifestyle changes you have to make,
Mm-hmm.
your immune system must be number one. So that means not eating GMOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Genetically modified organisms, the Monsanto, and now, who's bought Monsanto? Oh, yes, Bayer.
DuPont? Oh, Bayer.
Bayer bought Monsanto for billions of dollars. Um, all of these uh, CEOs and board members of these mega corporations that are involved um, in pharmaceuticals and
Mm-hmm.
chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
they're all in on this.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in on this,
Yes.
or they're nobody. So, so we have to assume that we are a test tube now. We're a petri dish
Yeah.
of these biologicals, along with everything else that is in us from what's being dropped. So, so our immune system is essential,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about my. I mean, I pretty much have my habits are all about my immune system
Mm-hmm. No, that's brilliant
because
advice because
say it again.
that's brilliant advice to tell people that, we need to focus on our immune systems because, in a sense, that's our first defense and possibly our only defense against the stuff that's coming down. Because we're talking about the size of nanotech. It's so infinitely tiny, right? It's 1 billionth of a meter, and it's small, much smaller than a human hair. So it's
Yes,
not something we'll know that we are imbibing or inhaling. It's just going to go into our lungs. It's going to go into our bloodstream with every breath
right.
we take, from our skin even, right? As we're outside.
Yes. Well, if you have there's a wonderful little microscope you can buy on the web now, a mini microscope at 60 power. I have one. I carry it in my purse. And
Mm-hmm.
if you take it and you turn on the little LED light that goes with it, and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of like zero in on maybe say a piece of fruit in the organic section at the supermarket, you're going to see a lot of fibers because they're coming down all the time.
Oh,
They're
wow.
coming
That's
down all
right.
the time.
Right,
And
right.
so there it is. But now let me finish about the immune system. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So yes, the physical immune system, which is very challenged by genetically engineered species, really, that our immune system does not recognize at this point. And I'm sure that many scientists are interested in seeing at what point the immune system might recognize these things and what will happen with our evolution. And so, we're being watched under a sort of microscope that we can't see
That's
of
so
what
interesting.
their open field experiment is doing to us.
Mm-hmm.
But with the immune system, I have to say that I think there's another thing that we need, and I would say that consciousness, and I'm going to have to define it or portray it at least for some of people's satisfaction. Consciousness is the immune system of the spirit, whereas our immune system is of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So we are both. We are a spirit living in a body
Mm-hmm.
for a time here on earth, and then when we leave our body, our body goes back to the elements. So I'm looking at a two-tiered defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, two-tiered. Yeah, uh, the immune system in the body, the consciousness that is the immune system of the spirit. So what I mean is, people must have an inner life. I'm not going to sit here and tell them to follow my inner life because everyone has free will. They must choose their own inner life that gives them meaning in their life, uh, and um, and and that in itself will strengthen the physical immune system. How do I know this? Well, I'm sort of my own experiment, and
Mm-hmm.
I know this is true because I practice it. And I haven't been to a doctor since I was 13. I'm 70 years old this year.
Oh, that's absolutely
And
wonderful.
I take care of myself. I follow a diet that keeps my intestinal tract working well, which then remember the intestinal tract is the seat of the
Right.
immune system. And then I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner for many, many years. I don't assiduously study or anything, but I follow the idea that I am a divine being living in a physical body, come to a challenged time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a challenged time, but there have been other challenged times. This is not the first one. And so just this morning, I was trying to remind someone who is sadly being targeted with electromagnetic weapons that that this is still a precious opportunity to learn and take hold of one's spiritual life
Mm-hmm.
in an inward way, and that strengthens the physical immune system. So this also has to do with knowledge, and that's all I can offer people. I'm trying to offer people a large picture of how this technology works.
Mm-hmm.
And one word we haven't used yet that I must put in here now is that I do believe that much of this has to do with the advent of transhumanism, and
Yes,
that
I
we
wanted to
very
talk
much
about
are
that.
now
Mm-hmm.
subject to Frankensteinian uh, psychopaths who want to be as gods
Yes.
on this planet and have a very large slave class
Mm-hmm.
subject to mind control and biological control, and that this would be what what Ray Kurzweil calls singularity, that we would be run by artificial intelligence, that artificial intelligence will continue to evolve, and human evolution will be stopped in its tracks if it does not comply with artificial intelligence. This is how I see everything that's going on now is playing into that,
Mm-hmm.
and that humanity itself is imperiled
Mm-hmm.
in the future and even now, but particularly the future.
Mm-hmm.
So by heightening one's consciousness and solidifying one's immune system, one can fight this spiritual war with tremendous reserve, because we do have help if we can only come to the table with everything that we can muster,
Yes.
and then things begin to move,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I live for.
Absolutely. I love it. And thank you for spelling it out. I think you're absolutely right. We're at a time period where each one of us is being called to truly and fully and completely express ourselves and bring everything we possibly can to this, to this table of global community, really, where literally even this conversation, the two of us getting together and talking about this, is just a step in that direction and trying to save humanity, all of us, because humanity is absolutely in peril, and that is exactly what I see too. And you said a little bit earlier that I might say that you have only bad news. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit aware of what the bad news, because I've been reading enough and I've been, learning enough the last few years to understand this scenario and the situation. But like you, I do love the idea that human consciousness is very powerful and can indeed break us out of this matrix that we're all being caught in. In fact, just last Sunday, I was on Dr. Paul Marco's show. He's running this wonderful show called Surfing the Portal, which is all about breaking out of the matrix, particularly for those who are targeted with electromagnetic weapons. So I was on his show and we talked about conscious breathing, mindful breathing, and connecting with nature and things like that. Just sort of connecting to reality and connecting to nature at the level of mind and consciousness and spirit, um, rather than ego and at the fear level or at the reactive level. You know, so that's a wonderful thing we talked about. But the other thing that you talked about that I really think we should touch on is transhumanism. And what you see as the end game, this agenda, Elon Musk, Ray Kurzweil, all of those guys who've taken it upon themselves to simply pump the whole world with nanotech, fill us up with the stuff that's getting not only into our bodies, but getting into our brains and taking the place of neurons. So, eh, so we're moving into a space of complete neural control, complete remote neural control of the brain, of the human brain. And you can actually see this in very small children. You can see the effects of this neural control in very small children today, because as you know, their brains are far more susceptible than ours. Um, so we're at this point where literally you have lunatic psychopaths like those guys, trying to, they say, evolve humans into the next step, which is artificial intelligence. And their whole story is we can't survive in the universe without artificial intelligence, without the singularity, without the hive mind, without all of us being hooked into a gigantic supercomputer. And that's the reason for the transhumanizing, etc. And then there's, the evolution of consciousness, which is, I think, what all of us are about. Those of us who can see this kind of mechanizing and transmogrifying and cybernetizing of the human, and be appalled at it, because shouldn't human evolution be a natural thing, something that moves through time?
You have your choice. It should be your choice. And that free will aspect is what is most hated by the Kurzweils of the world. Yes, we are bungling beings. There's no question about it. Someone can have a life in this world and completely blow it, completely waste it, lose their way, and leave at death having really done very little for human evolution. But that's their choice. And I'm just one of those people that I've been very influenced by Rudolf Steiner, and he says things like that humanity is the religion of the gods. Why would he say that? Why these bungling creatures that we are? Egotistical, weak. We can't run as fast as an impala. We can't swim like a fish. We can't. There's many things we can't do that maybe Navy SEALs would love to be able to do. But what is it? Why would we be the religion of the gods? Because we are an evolving being in a body. I mean, it's one thing to be angelic and not to have this burdensome body that gets sick and you have to take care of. But we have free will, and a lot of people don't seem to use it very well. It's a learning process, and so what I want to protect in humanity is the right to bungle in a way, to do whatever you choose to do, and I want the state to do as little as possible while I'm doing that. And we happen to live in a time which is like the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. The state is just overwhelming, and it's massive and it's brutal. So this is our challenge. How do I develop my individuality in the face of everything around me? TV, movies, mainstream media, internet. Everything around me telling me that I should just submit and be commoditized myself. That my foolish notions of spirituality are simply romantic nonsense. That really, if we want to evolve, we're going to need the Ray Kurzweils of the world who are going to push us to have inherit the life of and download the life of another into a younger body when he gets old, so he can have immortality. and all this cloning that's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
the uses of stem cells, and all of this, of course, is
Blood
for our benefit.
transfusions. Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Blood
Say it again.
transfusion. Blood
Yes,
transfusions as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's a very hard time for people to think their way out of all this. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
barraging people, and it's very hard to see the human being as being little more than a meat, whatever that phrase is people use, which is so terrible.
A
Some
meat
sort of,
suit. Meat suit.
yeah, yeah, a meat suit. Um, for me, I see something different. I see
Mm-hmm.
humanity clawing its way along
Mm-hmm.
under all sorts of burdens to find its way to freedom. And one of the greats for me, and I can feel my throat constricting, was Martin Luther King,
Mm-hmm.
because he somehow understood, by being black in America, he understood what freedom was, not just for blacks, but for everybody. It
Mm-hmm.
is not easy to be free. And in order to be free, we have to be able to say, this is my life, and the state does not own me. And this is really our challenge now,
Yes.
is to find a way to develop our consciousness. And the other part of consciousness that I wanted to put in from what you said before is the knowledge piece. It isn't
Mm-hmm.
enough to just go on your own island and meditate and have a peaceful life and surround yourself with love and delight. It is part of freedom is carrying that weight
Mm-hmm.
of others.
Yes.
Uh,
Sh-
yes, and
to share the
that's
knowledge, right? Yes. I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I think some of us feel especially burdened in this time period to simply share as much as possible, everything that we have, to put it out there, so that you don't really know who's watching, who's listening, who's reading what you put out there. But you do it in the hope that somebody, at least one person, will connect and that it will be useful for someone. So,
yes, yes. And you mentioned earlier, we've talked about targeting to a degree, but I want to say that the targeting is really going on now is vast and far more vast than people realize.
yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people are being targeted in their homes. It's called electronic incarceration, and it is experimental, and it is extraordinarily brutal. And I I see how the 5G is going to be used. Um, the 5G will be essential for this. The difference between, just to remember that 5G does not mean it's just one more up from 4G. They
Right.
very cleverly used the term 5G to make it look like it was just an increase of 4G, but it's a creature of a whole other thing.
Right.
It's not at all along the lines of the previous cell phones.
Mhm.
So it it is a millimeter wave technology, a very very tiny wave that shreds DNA basically in strength. And we've already encountered this technology at the TSA airport places. This is the big reason you don't want to be X-rayed at the TSA. You want to just be patted down, whatever,
Mhm.
because it is definitely a shredder of DNA.
Mhm.
And
And
the antenna,
shredding your DNA is bad for various reasons, right? It's not just for your progeny, it's for your own
no,
bodily health.
no, it isn't just about having babies or something. It's actually DNA records our lives. It probably means the death of our memory. It could very well have something to do with the Alzheimer's, not just the aluminum.
Yeah.
Uh, so this technology needs to be very carefully studied. Uh, need to be alert to your neighborhood because they are putting them up now on usually telephone poles. They're a very small box. That's the antenna. It's
Oh,
very
wait,
small.
are you saying that they're rolling it out already and they're not telling anyone?
Oh, yes. Oh,
It,
yes.
it's being rolled
Yeah.
out without notice, in other words.
Without notice. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And as you know, if you listen to the speech by the head of the FCC, he
Oh, yeah.
waxed eloquent
Oh,
on 5G, and he made it clear that this is not going to be just urban, this is rural as well. So the 5G to me is the final little piece in the lockdown that will now hold us in. If you picture that ring around the Earth, now picture the Wi-Fi and the ionosphere heaters and all of the wireless energy around the planet now in our atmosphere, with all the little nanos moving this way and that inside our bubble that we need in order to live. And now, from the ring in near Earth orbit to our DNA, our brain, bodies, um, it's all one large machine.
Mm.
We're
We're all
encased
cogs, yeah. Ultimately, we become these.
large,
We
yes.
become tiny little electromagnetic cogs in this huge electromagnetic machine that's
Yes,
being set in
and
place.
all of it run by AI, artificial intelligence, that has all the frequencies of your brain, of my brain, of anybody's brain, that has all the frequencies of every level of life. And now you ask, well, who will run this? And I think that the Elon Musks and the Ray Kurzweils of the world and the Bill Gates, yes, there will be humans who will have their face plastered in front, but really it will all be run by AI. And I think to understand what AI is, you have to really look at CERN. And for people who don't know where CERN is, it's the particle accelerator, one of the largest in the world, but not the largest, at the border of France and Switzerland. And while they're looking for the Higgs boson or the God particle, really what they're doing is they're opening the door on antimatter. And with this door open, or portal, if you will, with this open, then all manner of entities from the various quantum parallel worlds have access now to our world, and we are changed. We are changed by all of this, and this again. I will stress it again. What can make the difference when you're grappling with entities from parallel worlds, which it may sound pretty far out to some people, pretty science fiction, but no, I don't think so anymore. Then consciousness again, because the human being has a certain frequency, right?
Yes,
We
we're
hear about
beings of
7.83,
frequency.
our human resonance, which by the way, the human resonance now is reading 9 or so. So we have a frequency of our own, and we can retain that. Because in my mind, the truth is that if we have the authority that all the ancient documents, the Vedas, the Ramayana, if we have that kind of authority as the human dimension of life, human beings are not just higher apes. They are not even in the animal kingdom in a certain way. Then we can overcome access to our frequency. But we must know about these things. See, it isn't enough to just say a prayer to God or whoever, save me, take care of me. It is not enough. The era of faith is over. It was over a long time ago. What we now have to have is an era of knowledge, because knowledge is power. As our enemies say, knowledge is power. I too know that knowledge is power. Scientia est potentia. So we must have the concepts of these things, such as the antimatter, such as the fact that our military is now farming antimatter right in our own atmosphere, because our atmosphere is filled with plasma now. And they can do that. Now they can do that.
That's
So
very interesting.
these things, yes, these things are important to
Mhm.
understand and study, so that you don't need a science degree. You don't need to go back to college, because they won't be teaching you this anyway. But you can find out what's going on around you, and so that you learn what time, what era you're living in. And that has to do with why you even came to this planet for this life. Uh, to me, this is all elementary stuff. Elementary, my dear Watson.
Yeah.
And I very much pursue it with gusto, because I know this will not work. No bid for empire on this scale has ever worked, and this will not work either. But I would like to pay less
Mhm.
than than some other eras have paid.
Mhm. I love that optimism, and what a wonderful note to end this conversation on, because we've sort of come to, a quarter after the hour, which is sort of the time that we had in mind. But you brought it to an end so perfectly, because you're right, all of this is going on around us. It's so important to find out what on earth is going on, to start reading, to start listening to people, to watch the right YouTube videos, they're hard to find, and to go after knowledge to find out what's going on. But also, to stay, to keep a hold of your own self, your own spirit, your own consciousness, because those are power tools that we have really as humans. They're something that the
Yes.
transhumanists actually cannot attack and cannot take away. Although they're trying desperately. I mean, they're trying very, very hard right now, aren't they? But
Well, and with your frequencies, see, this is the problem. They have your frequencies. I
mhm,
mean, all the targeters.
yeah,
They can do EEGs from a distance.
yeah.
They don't need to have you in a lab or in
Mm-mm,
a hospital. So yes, it is challenging, but consciousness is still greater,
mhm.
and that needs to come from within, and we need to have confidence in that and pursue a lifestyle that builds that and doesn't tear it down.
On a purely individual level is what you're talking about, because you can do that
Oh
just by
yes,
yourself. You can do that by yourself, right?
yes, and meanwhile, uh, retaining the idea that we're all in this together,
Yes, and
which
working
I
to
do.
connect. Yeah, I know. It seems to me at this point in time we're so connected because we're living in this time of tribulation, so to speak. Because we are being imposed on. We are being literally, physically, and materially oppressed. And so those of us who can see it do feel, I think, sort of intrinsic connection. And that's a wonderful thing because we, in a sense, need to work for each other and with each other, to perhaps break out of all of this. Ilana, it's been wonderful having you. Thank you so much for coming and talking about all of these subjects. And I hope at some point we can do this again and we can go in detail into some of the things that you mentioned, antimatter, CERN, etc. So many different aspects. Um,
Well, certainly, as I'm doing the writing the synthetic biology book, I'm sure I'm going to have many thoughts along these lines,
Wonderful.
and
But
we can definitely share that. And by the way, I want to thank you for the work you're doing. They're fantastic interviews.
oh, thank you. I'm so glad you're reading them or listening, whichever. Thank you. Well, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.